Welcome back, deep divers. Ready for another fascinating exploration?
Always.
Today we're diving deep into Neville Goddard's unique perspective on the Bible.
Ah, Neville Goddard. Always a mind-bending journey.
Precisely. We'll be focusing on his ideas about interpreting the Bible, especially what he says about the relationship between God, humanity, and this idea of being one with God.
Oneness, a central theme in Goddard's work.
Absolutely. And our primary source for this deep dive is an excerpt from one of his lectures, which is rich in symbolism and personal anecdotes.
Always love those. Makes it so much more engaging, right?
I agree. So, to kick things off, what really struck me was how Goddard emphasizes the Bible as salvation history.
Right. He encourages us to move away from that literal historical interpretation.
It's like he's saying, forget about the historical events, the real journey is an inner spiritual one.
Exactly. He's shifting the focus from external events to the internal transformation each individual goes through.
So it's not about what happened thousands of years ago, but about what's happening within us right now.
Precisely. Instead of a history book, the Bible becomes like a guide for inner transformation.
A roadmap for our own personal quest to connect with the divine.
I like that, a roadmap. And that's what makes Goddard's interpretation so unique. It's all about that personal experiential approach.
He uses the example of the Exodus story, right?
Yes. He suggests it's not just about the Israelites escaping Egypt, but about each of us escaping those limitations of our own ego.
Our own Egypt, so to speak.
Exactly. Breaking free from those self-imposed boundaries.
So how does this whole salvation history idea tie into his interpretation of the greatest commandment?
Ah, yes. The declaration, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one."
He seems to really hone in on that idea of oneness.
Well, unity with God is at the very core of everything Goddard teaches.
And to illustrate it, he uses that rather unusual mathematical equation,
1 + 1 = 1. God's arithmetic, as he calls it.
where our individual soul merges with God to achieve true oneness.
It's not about two separate things becoming one, but rather recognizing that we were never truly separate to begin with.
Whoa, okay. That's pretty mind-blowing. But if we become one with God, do we lose our individual identity?
That's a great question. It's more like a return to a state of unity that has always existed.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. It makes you wonder about the experiences that led him to this interpretation.
While we don't have those specific details from this lecture, his focus on oneness permeates all of his work with the Bible.
He also brings in this really interesting metaphor of marriage to describe the relationship between God and humanity,
Yeah, he draws on Isaiah's description of God as a husband.
highlighting that deep intimacy and commitment between the divine and each individual soul.
Not a distant authoritarian God, but a loving personal connection.
And then he introduces all this intriguing symbolism around places like Zion, Bethlehem, the city of God, the city of David.
Instead of seeing them as literal locations, Goddard interprets these places as symbols of an inner spiritual state.
They represent that promised land within each of us.
Precisely. It's that state of awakened consciousness where we realize our oneness with God.
I'm especially intrigued by how he talks about being buried in the city of David.
It does sound a bit morbid at first, right?
Yeah, but then he connects it to spiritual awakening. It's a powerful image.
It really is. It suggests letting go of our ego, surrendering to something larger than ourselves, and ultimately experiencing a rebirth.
A rebirth or awakening to our true spiritual identity.
Exactly. Shedding the old to embrace the new.
So where does King David fit into all of this?
Goddard sees David as the embodiment of awakened consciousness within each of us.
Is he connecting this to the bigger picture of Jesus Christ? Like the Old Testament hinting at what comes in the New Testament?
Precisely. He views the New Testament as a reinterpretation of David's journey, but focused on Christ.
Okay, I'm following, and this is where it gets even more interesting. Goddard says that when this David within us awakens, he calls us Father.
It's a powerful concept, isn't it?
It definitely challenges traditional Christian interpretations. So, are you saying that when we reach this awakened state, we realize our own divinity and become the Father?
That's the core of Goddard's message. A radical shift in perspective.
Now, he makes this rather provocative comparison. He says, those who believe in a God outside themselves are like a harlot, while the Virgin gives birth to the Christ within.
It's strong imagery, for sure.
It is. What do you make of that?
I think he's contrasting a state of spiritual dependency on outside forces, the harlot, with that self-sufficiency and power to connect with the divine within, the Virgin.
It's about owning your spiritual authority.
Exactly, stepping into your own power.
He even shares a dream one of his friends had about a woman named Glory.
Ah, yes. Glory, who has 12 daughters, 11 with disabilities, but the one who is a virgin gives birth to a son.
And people are obsessed with finding out who the father is, even threatening the son.
It's an allegory packed with symbolism.
What do you think it's trying to tell us?
I think it speaks to the pushback we often face when we embrace our own spiritual power.
It's like society wants us to stay dependent on those external authorities, to stay in that harlot state instead of trusting our own inner divinity.
That's a profound observation. Definitely something to ponder on our own spiritual journeys.
And just when I thought it couldn't get any more mind-bending, he hits us with this analogy of the universe as an infinite brain.
An infinite brain with God as the dreamer.
And we, the individual souls, are like brain cells within that divine mind.
It's such a beautiful way to illustrate that concept of unity, the interconnectedness of everything.
So we're all part of this massive cosmic dream, and the goal is to awaken and realize we're part of the dreamer.
Yes, it's the ultimate goal of spiritual awakening.
The idea that each of us could become the dreamer is awe-inspiring.
It really challenges our understanding of our place in the grand scheme of things.
It does. He does touch upon a simple law for navigating the material world, but he quickly shifts back to the primary message of spiritual transformation.
He acknowledges that we still live in this material world with all its challenges and desires.
He uses the example of Jacob to illustrate this, right? Jacob, who represents that focus on worldly success.
Right. He manipulates situations and gains material wealth using this simple law.
But ultimately, Goddard seems to imply that this kind of success is temporary and less fulfilling.
It's almost like he's saying, sure, you can use this law to get ahead in the world, but don't lose sight of the real goal.
Awakening the David within and realizing your oneness with God.
Exactly. The true riches come from spiritual awakening.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Don't lose sight of the real goal. And it reminds me of how he contrasts Jacob with David. Jacob representing worldly success and David symbolizing spiritual awakening.
Right. And he even gives the example of Jacob deceiving his father-in-law Laban to gain material wealth.
It sounds like he's acknowledging that there are ways to manipulate the material world using this simple law, but
True fulfillment comes from spiritual awakening.
not from external achievements.
Mm.
And in the end, both Jacob and David are part of that larger whole, that infinite brain we talked about.
It's all God, just unfolding in different ways.
That infinite brain analogy, it really captures the imagination.
It really does, doesn't it?
Makes you question the very nature of reality. It challenges the idea that we're these isolated individuals.
Instead, we are interconnected parts of a vast cosmic consciousness.
So how does this infinite brain idea actually connect to spiritual awakening?
Well, imagine each brain cell in that infinite brain as a soul.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
When a soul awakens, it realizes its connection to the whole, It understands that it's not separate, but an integral part of the divine mind.
So as more souls awaken, the infinite brain becomes more alive, more aware.
Exactly. It's a collective awakening, a gradual unfolding of that divine consciousness.
It's like we're all playing a role in the evolution of the universe. Fascinating.
It really is.
Speaking of roles, Goddard talks about a simple law for navigating the material world,
But as we touched on earlier, it seems secondary to his message of spiritual transformation.
he acknowledges that we still live in this material world with all its challenges and desires, but
He doesn't want us to get too caught up in it.
he uses the example of Jacob to illustrate this, right?
Yeah.
Jacob, who represents that focus on worldly success.
Right.
He manipulates situations and gains material wealth using this simple law, but ultimately,
Goddard seems to imply that this kind of success is temporary, less fulfilling than the true riches that come from spiritual awakening.
it's almost like he's saying, sure, you can use this law to get ahead in the world, but don't lose sight of the real goal. Awakening the David within and realizing your oneness with God.
Right. It's not about rejecting the material world entirely,
Right.
but about shifting our perspective.
It's about aligning ourselves with what Goddard calls those gates of Zion,
Yes.
that inner state of spiritual awareness rather than chasing after those external goals and possessions.
He contrasts those gates of Zion with the dwelling places of Jacob, saying that God prefers the former.
Can you elaborate on that a little?
Sure. So Jacob represents that relentless pursuit of worldly success,
Yeah.
While Zion symbolizes that inner state of spiritual awakening, God, or that divine consciousness, favors the latter.
Okay.
It's a reminder that true fulfillment comes from within.
So how do we apply this to our everyday lives?
That's the question, isn't it?
How do we shift our focus from those dwelling places of Jacob to the gates of Zion?
I think it begins with awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah, noticing when we're getting caught up in the pursuit of external things.
Whether it's wealth, status, even relationships.
Right.
And then making a conscious choice to turn inward, cultivate a connection with that inner divinity.
Exactly. It's about practicing presence, being mindful of our thoughts and actions.
And making choices that align with our spiritual goals.
Yes.
It's about remembering that we are not separate from God, but expressions of God.
That our true power comes from within.
And as we awaken to this truth, as we align ourselves with those gates of Zion, we start experiencing a deeper sense of peace, joy, and fulfillment that no amount of worldly success can provide.
Absolutely. It's a journey of self-discovery, shedding old beliefs, embracing a new understanding of who we really are.
It's about moving from a state of spiritual dependence, like that harlot in Goddard's analogy, to a state of self-sufficiency, like the virgin who gives birth to the Christ within.
Owning our spiritual authority and realizing that we are not just brain cells in an infinite brain.
But the dreamer itself.
Exactly. And as more and more of us awaken to this, we contribute to that collective awakening of the infinite brain.
Bringing that divine dream to life.
And this reminds me of Goddard's description of David, the symbol of awakened consciousness, calling us Father when he arises within us.
What a powerful image.
It is.
It really speaks to that profound shift in identity that happens when we awaken to our true nature.
We go from seeing ourselves as these separate individuals to recognizing our inherent divinity.
Our oneness with God.
And this isn't just some abstract idea.
Right.
It's a lived experience that changes how we relate to ourselves, to others, to the world around us.
You mentioned earlier that dream Goddard's friend had about a woman named Glory, who gives birth to a son and people trying to figure out who the father is and even threaten the son. What are your thoughts on that?
It seems like an allegory for the resistance we encounter when we embrace our own spiritual power.
Like there are forces, both internal and external, that try to keep us playing small, prevent us from reaching our full potential.
Perhaps it's the fear of the unknown, the discomfort of challenging those deeply ingrained beliefs.
Or even the ego's resistance to surrender.
Could be. But it seems the message is that the truth can't be silenced. That sun, representing our awakened consciousness, will always find a way to emerge, shine its light into the world.
It's a reminder that our spiritual journey is not always easy, but
it's ultimately a journey worth taking.
It's about overcoming the challenges, the doubts, the fears.
And stepping into our full power as expressions of the divine.
And in doing so, we inspire others to do the same.
Contributing to the collective awakening of humanity.
Inspiring others, exactly. And it all ties back to that line from the lecture, "Let no man put asunder what God has joined together."
We are already joined with God, with that divine consciousness.
It's a matter of remembering.
Yeah, of waking up to that truth.
Is that what Goddard means by being born again?
Exactly. Not a literal rebirth, but that spiritual shift.
Yeah.
A transformation of consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's through that transformation that we realize, really realize, that we are one with God.
So we move beyond this idea of me separate from God and realize, like you said, that we're the same. But then what? What does that actually look like, in our daily lives?
I think it shows up as a deep sense of peace, a knowing that everything is as it should be.
That feeling of connection to something so much bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
A sense of purpose, of belonging.
But it also brings a profound sense of responsibility.
Responsibility? In what way?
Well, if we truly are one with God, then we're also responsible for the state of the world.
Oh, I see.
Our thoughts, our actions, even just our being, impacts that collective consciousness.
So it's not just about personal enlightenment, but about, making the world a better place.
Exactly. Living from a place of love, compassion, and understanding. Using that awareness to create a more just and harmonious world.
Goddard mentions that our first impression of God might be one of destructive violence. But that's not the whole picture, right?
Right.
What do you think he's getting at there?
I think he's acknowledging that spiritual awakening can be intense, even unsettling. There might be challenges, setbacks, things that feel like destruction.
Like that image of being buried in the city of David.
Yeah, exactly. There's a death, a letting go of old ways of being before the rebirth and awakening can happen.
That destructive violence could also refer to dismantling our old belief systems, shattering the illusions we hold about ourselves and the world.
It's like shaking up a snow globe. Everything falls apart so it can settle into a new, more beautiful pattern.
I like that. And through this process, we come to see God not as this distant, judgmental figure, but as
infinite love.
And that love, that infinite love, is what unites us all.
It's the glue that holds that infinite brain together, the force that connects us as one.
Goddard's teachings can be, mind-bending and challenging at times, but
they also offer a profound sense of hope.
Hope that we aren't alone, that we're part of something so much greater than ourselves, and that we have the power to create a better world.
And that power comes from within.
From recognizing our own divinity, our oneness with God.
It's about choosing those gates of Zion over those dwelling places of Jacob.
Letting that divine love shine through our thoughts, our words, our actions.
Living a life that reflects who we really are. Spiritual beings. Expressions of the divine.
Well, this deep dive into Neville Goddard's perspective has been truly eye-opening.
It's challenged us to reconsider our understanding of the Bible of God and of ourselves.
And it's given us a glimpse into a world of infinite possibilities, where we're not just brain cells, but the dreamer itself.
As you go about your day, remember Goddard's words. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Let them resonate within you and guide you on your own journey of spiritual awakening.
Until next time, fellow deep divers, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never forget who you truly are.
All right, so are you ready to, dive into some pretty deep stuff today? Because you shared this lecture with us by Neville Goddard, and it's all about the power of imagination.
And we're going to kind of unpack all of that. Looking at how our thoughts, even the ones we don't really pay attention to, can shape our lives, maybe in ways that we don't expect.
Yeah, it is. It's really wild. When I first heard about Neville Goddard, I thought, oh, okay, another, mystic from the last century.
Right.
But then I started reading his work and, wow, this guy was onto something.
He really was. And ahead of his time, talking about, things like the law of attraction way back when and the power of the subconscious.
And today we're going to zero in on this idea that imagining is actually creating reality. We're even going to talk about a story about your friend Bob,
right,
who kind of unknowingly used this power to completely change his career.
Yeah, it's a great story to really illustrate this idea of the imaginal act.
Okay, imaginal act, it sounds a little, I don't know, mystical.
Right.
Can you kind of break that down for us? What exactly does that mean?
Sure, yeah. It sounds a little out there, but it's actually a pretty simple concept. Goddard believed that every single thing that happens in our world is caused by something we imagine, whether we meant to or not.
Okay.
It's like planting a seed in your mind that eventually grows into something real in the physical world.
So does that mean if I just spend all day dreaming about winning the lottery that I'll win?
Well, not quite. It's not just about wishing for things,
Right.
It's about understanding the deeper meaning behind what you're imagining caught on. Goddard called that the implication.
Okay.
So think of it like this. If you imagine yourself confidently giving a presentation at work, the implication of that is that you are a capable and confident person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So how does your friend Bob's story fit into all of this? You mentioned he had a career change.
He did a big one, yeah. So Bob was working at RCA, and he was doing pretty well from what anyone could tell. Good sales record content, but then out of nowhere he gets laid off.
Wow, that's got to be a shock.
Big show.
Where does the imagination part come in?
Right. So Bob told Goddard about this horrible commute he had on the Santa Ana freeway, bumper-to-bumper traffic every single day.
Oh, yeah, I know that freeway.
Oh, yeah. And he would daydream about turning off towards downtown L.A. instead of continuing on to RCA.
So he's essentially picturing himself not going to work.
Exactly. And the implication of that is that he doesn't work there anymore.
Hold on. Are we saying that Bob's daydreams somehow caused him to get laid off?
It's easy to just write it off as a coincidence.
Yeah.
But Goddard was convinced that what we see happening around us is actually the result of what's happening inside of us, our thoughts and imaginings.
Yeah.
He compared it to a movie projector. The film is the imaginal act, and what we see projected on the screen is our reality.
I see. So the film, in Bob's case, was him driving downtown and then losing his job was what happened on the screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it kind of leads us to a question that your friend asked, and that was, do we have to consciously decide every single thing we imagine? Or can we do it without even realizing it?
That's a really good question because, are we just shaping our reality with our thoughts without even knowing it?
Absolutely. Think about it. We're always imagining something, whether it's intentional daydreaming or just our mind wandering.
Right.
And all those imaginings, big or small, are having an effect on the world around us.
Wow.
What are those thoughts that you find yourself thinking over and over again?
Hmm.
What about those daydreams that keep popping up? They might be telling you something about the reality you're creating for yourself, even if you don't realize it.
It's incredible. It's empowering. And it's a little scary to think that we have that much influence over our lives.
It is.
If we're constantly shaping our reality with our thoughts, what does that tell us about, well, everything?
It really does make you question everything, doesn't it?
Right.
And for Goddard, this wasn't just some philosophical idea. This was at the core of his spiritual beliefs. He actually believed that this power of imagination is the same power that Christ represents within us.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah,
So we're going there.
we're going there. Yeah, it's a powerful concept, isn't it? He believed that the true Christ isn't some historical figure, but a symbol of this creative force that's inside every one of us.
So instead of seeking like this external savior, we need to learn how to tap into that power within.
Exactly. And he saw the Bible as an allegory, full of stories that kind of illustrate this concept.
Okay.
Think about David and Goliath. David went up against this giant with nothing but a slingshot and his belief in himself,
Right.
in his own power.
Right.
And Goddard saw that as a metaphor for the triumph of imagination over what seems impossible.
I like that interpretation. It's a good reminder that maybe we limit ourselves more than we need to.
Oh, yeah.
If this incredible power is inside us, how do we actually use it?
Yeah.
What's the secret to harnessing this inner Christ?
Right. Well, he talked a lot about dreaming nobly, which might sound a little cheesy, but it's really about using our imagination for good, to create something positive in our lives. And he emphasized focusing on how it would feel if your dream was already reality instead of getting caught up in the how of getting there.
So like if I'm picturing myself living in my dream home, I should try to feel the joy and gratitude as if I was already there.
Yes, exactly. Embody the feeling of your wish fulfilled instead of dwelling on the fact that you don't have it yet.
Okay.
And Goddard himself had a pretty powerful story about how he used this, to create a better career path.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
So Goddard actually got fired from a job.
Sounds familiar, kind of like Bob.
Exactly. But instead of focusing on the negative, he used it as an opportunity for change.
Okay.
He started imagining himself working for himself, being his own boss.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, that's exactly what happened. He became a successful writer and lecturer, all because he dared to imagine a different path.
That's really inspiring. It shows that even when things feel like they're falling apart, you can use your imagination to see a better future and actually make it happen.
Absolutely. And there's another story that the Goddard shared about the poet William Butler Yeats.
Okay.
Yeats apparently appeared to a friend who was hundreds of miles away, seemingly just through the intensity of his imagination.
Wait, are you saying that he, like, teleported himself using his mind?
That's how it seemed to his friend.
Whoa.
Yeats didn't consciously remember it happening, but it just highlights the power of focused thought and how our imagination can reach way beyond, our physical limitations.
That's crazy. So if everyone is kind of shaping their own reality with their thoughts, how do we explain the shared experiences that we have with other people? It's not like we all just live in our own little bubbles.
Right. That's where things get even more mind-bending. Goddard believed that, in a sense, everyone that we encounter is like an actor playing a role in bringing our imaginings to life.
So you're saying other people are like characters in a movie that we're writing and directing with our minds.
It's not about controlling or manipulating people.
Right.
It's more about understanding that we're all interconnected and influencing each other's experiences in ways that we may never fully grasp.
So if I imagine myself, having a loving and supportive partner, the people I meet could be drawn into that story somehow.
Exactly. When we shift our inner world, it creates a ripple effect that touches everyone around us.
Wow.
Goddard said it like this: everyone is an agent for you.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this ties together. It's like we're all participating in this huge cosmic dance, co-creating our reality through our collective thoughts and imagination.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the difference between internal and external motion.
Oh, right. You mentioned that before. Can you run me what that's all about?
So for Goddard, it was all about understanding what's cause and what's effect.
Okay.
Internal motion, meaning our thoughts, feelings, the things that we imagine, that's the cause that sets everything in motion. The things that happen around us, the external motion, that's just the effect.
So the key to lasting change is to start by working on our inner world.
Exactly. It's like rewriting the script of a movie. If you want a different ending, you need to start by changing the story.
I love that analogy. That makes so much sense.
And that's what's so empowering about Goddard's teachings.
Yeah.
We aren't just victims of circumstance.
Right.
We have way more power than we think to create our own destiny. It all starts with understanding the power of imagination.
Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We should be asking, what am I creating? What am I imagining into being?
Exactly. It all comes down to taking responsibility for the world that we're creating, both individually and collectively.
It's like we're walking around with this, this superpower inside us.
Right.
But most of us have no clue how to even turn it on.
It really is like having a magic wand and not realizing you can use it to, make your dreams come true.
But the good news is once you understand it, you can start to actually use it.
You can.
Create a life that you actually want.
Exactly. And it's not just about material things or achieving goals in the outside world.
Right.
It's about creating a richer, more meaningful life on the inside too.
Like using your imagination to maybe let go of old beliefs that are holding you back.
Yeah.
Or to heal from, emotional wounds, or even to connect with something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. It's all about understanding that your mind is powerful enough to shape your reality.
This is also inspiring. It makes me wonder about the ethical side of things. If we can imagine anything into being, doesn't that come with a lot of responsibility?
It does, and Goddard did talk about that. He stressed the importance of using this power for good, for creating things that are in harmony with the well-being of everyone.
So it's not about using this power to get ahead at the expense of others or to manipulate people into doing what you want.
Definitely not for Goddard. Real power came from aligning your desires with a higher purpose. Using your imagination to create a world that's more loving, more compassionate, and more just for everyone.
That's a beautiful vision. And it makes me think about something you mentioned earlier, the promise. This idea that our desires will be fulfilled, our imaginings will become our reality. It sounds almost too good to be true.
It's a concept that goes to the very heart of Goddard's teachings. This promise is a spiritual principle that goes beyond what we can see and touch, what our rational minds can even grasp.
So it's not about hoping or wishing for things, but having this deep inner knowing that it's already happened.
Yeah, it's a huge shift in perspective. Instead of feeling a sense of lack or longing, you move into a feeling of gratitude and fulfillment.
But if the promise is unconditional, does that mean we don't have to do anything? Can we just sit back and wait for our dreams to magically show up?
Well, it's not about passive waiting. It's about becoming an active participant in the unfolding of your reality. Taking the steps, making the choices that are aligned with what you're imagining.
So it's like a collaboration.
Yeah.
We're using our imagination as the blueprint, and then we're taking action to bring it to life.
Exactly. It's about understanding that we have a role to play in this creative process, even when it comes to seemingly impossible dreams.
It suggests that we have a lot more influence over our lives than we realize. But how do we know this promise is real? Is there any evidence to support it?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky for Goddard. The proof was in the pudding. He encouraged people to test these principles in their own lives and see what happened.
Right.
It's not about blind faith. It's about experimenting, discovering what works for you.
I love that approach. It's not about dogma or rigid rules. It's about empowering people to kind of discover their own truth.
That's the beauty of Goddard's teachings. They're not about imposing beliefs. They're a framework for exploration and self-discovery.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Goddard's work.
There's always more to uncover, but hopefully this gives you a good starting point for understanding the power of imagination.
And what's most important is that we actually put these ideas into practice in our lives.
Yeah, it's not enough to just understand these concepts intellectually. We need to actually live them, to embody them in our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions.
So to our listener, what will you imagine into being tonight? What kind of reality will you create?
And remember, pay attention to those moments when your mind is wandering. You might be surprised by what you find yourself imagining into existence. Keep dreaming big, keep using your imagination, and trust in the power of your own mind to create a life beyond your wildest dreams.
And as Neville Goddard himself said, the world is yourself pushed out. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Until next time. Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us.
Always a pleasure.
Today, we're going to be looking at prophecy and vision.
Oh, very interesting.
And specifically in Scripture. And we're going to be unpacking a lecture from Neville Goddard.
All right.
And it's a very interesting lecture. I think it's one that really makes you think.
Okay.
And he uses a woman's mystical experience,
Okay,
along with the 89th Psalm, to connect God, David, and Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow.
In a very surprising way.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really kind of like pulling back the curtain on a cosmic play, and the whole time the question is, who is David?
Yeah, and it's not an academic question. It's one that really has implications for how we understand ourselves and where we fit in.
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me about this woman's experience.
Sure. So this woman hears a voice that identifies her as David
Okay.
and declares its own divinity, saying, I am God.
Wow.
And I am you.
It's a lot to take in.
And what's interesting about this is that this woman is described as very feminine. So there's that juxtaposition between the kind of traditional masculine figure of David
Right.
and this feminine presence.
Yeah, so that's not your average vision.
Right.
And then the voice later reveals itself to be God the Father.
That's right. God the Father.
Which begs the question, who is David?
Right.
If it's not, just a historical king,
Yeah.
who are we talking about here?
That's where the 89th Psalm comes into play.
Okay.
And Goddard really dissects this psalm.
Okay.
He focuses on the structure of the psalm.
Yeah.
It goes from a preface to a praise to an oracle to a lament and ends with a blessing.
Okay.
And he points out all of these titles that are attributed to David, my chosen one, my servant, my anointed.
Right. I've read that psalm before.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about those titles too deeply.
Right. And he suggests that they're not just poetic flourishes.
Right.
He links these titles to titles used for Jesus Christ in the New Testament.
Okay.
So he's drawing a parallel between these two and suggesting that maybe they share a deeper spiritual essence.
Yep.
Something that transcends the historical context.
Okay, so we've got this connection
Right.
between David and Jesus.
Yeah.
But we haven't really answered the question of who is David?
Right. Well, Goddard proposes that David embodies God's creative power.
Okay.
God is love.
Right.
Love needs an object, someone
Yeah.
to pour that love onto.
Yeah.
And he says that object is David the beloved.
So is David like a blank slate?
No, not exactly.
Okay.
It's more that he represents the potential for creation itself.
Okay.
And Goddard points out that in the psalm, there's this whole section of lament where David goes through all these trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
And Goddard sees these as metaphors for the challenges and struggles we all face as human beings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you saying that these difficult experiences are actually part of God's creative process?
That's one way to look at it.
That we're somehow contributing to this cosmic play through our own,
Yes.
ups and downs?
It's all woven together. Even our struggles are part of something greater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not something you hear every day.
No.
So where does Jesus fit into all of this?
Right.
If David represents God's creative power,
Okay.
what does Jesus represent?
Goddard uses this phrase, the spirit of prophecy,
Okay.
and equates that with Christ.
Okay.
He argues that Jesus Christ, as the power and wisdom of God, embodies this unity of Father and Son.
Okay.
So it's not about seeing Jesus as a separate historical figure,
Right.
but more like a principle,
Right.
a state of being that manifests when we tap into our own divine nature.
So you're saying that realizing God's creative power within us,
Yes.
embodying that spirit of prophecy,
Yeah.
is essentially what it means to be Christ-like.
Exactly.
And
It's about recognizing we're not just passive observers in this cosmic play.
Right.
We have a role to play.
Okay.
And we can access that same power and wisdom that Jesus embodied.
Hold on. I need a minute to process this
Yes,
flaw.
God.
So tell me more about this divine drama
Okay.
that Goddard keeps talking about.
He uses vivid imagery. He describes a grand banquet
Okay.
where imperfections are healed and transformed.
So it's like a
Yeah.
future where we're all whole and complete.
Yeah, we've gone through the fire of experience and emerged stronger.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's not just about recognizing our divine potential.
it's about living it out.
It's about experiencing those trials and ultimately finding that wholeness.
Exactly.
But what does that look like?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it's one that we're going to explore further as we delve deeper into the 89th Psalm.
Yeah, this is making me think about my own life in a whole new way.
I bet.
It's like every challenge, every struggle is an opportunity to tap into that creative power.
Yeah.
But I want to hear more about how the 89th Psalm provides a roadmap for this journey.
Let's do that next.
Okay.
Remember, this psalm is structured in a very specific way, and each section offers valuable insights.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, so we're diving into the 89th Psalm now, and it sounds like this is where Goddard really starts to unpack this "who is David?" question.
Huh.
What's the first stop on this roadmap?
The psalm opens with a preface where the writer is setting the stage basically declaring God's faithfulness and praising his incredible power.
Okay, so we're getting oriented,
Yeah.
understanding the foundation.
Exactly. And then the psalm moves into this section of praise that's directed at David specifically.
Okay.
And it's here we encounter all of those powerful titles that we were talking about earlier, my chosen one, my servant, my anointed, the firstborn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just imagining those words echoing through the centuries.
Yeah.
They carry so much weight and meaning.
Yeah, they do.
It makes you wonder, what do they actually signify?
Right. Well, Goddard suggests that they point to something much deeper than just a kingly role.
Okay.
Remember the woman who heard the voice calling her David?
Right.
Well, Goddard uses that experience to argue that those titles are not bound by time or even gender. They represent a timeless principle and archetype that can be embodied by anyone who taps into their divine nature.
So they're like keys that unlock a hidden dimension within ourselves.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And this brings us to the heart of the matter,
Okay.
the oracle section of the psalm.
Okay.
Here, God makes a series of promises to David, declaring that his dynasty will endure forever.
Right.
And that his throne will be established for all generations.
I could see how people might interpret that literally as a promise of, earthly power or inheritance.
Of course, but Goddard encourages us to look beyond the surface. He argues that the real inheritance that's being offered here is not material wealth or political influence,
Right.
but something far more profound.
Yeah.
The inheritance of God's own creative power.
So when the song talks about David's seed enduring forever, it's not talking about a bloodline, but about the continuation of this creative force
Precisely.
through time.
Exactly. Goddard sees this creative power as an essential aspect of God's own being. And because we are made in God's image, we have the potential to tap into that same power
Okay.
and express it in our own unique ways.
So the dynasty that's being established is not a physical kingdom.
Right.
It's the ongoing unfolding of God's creative plan through us.
Yeah, that's how Goddard interprets it. And he really emphasizes that there's nothing outside of God.
Okay.
So therefore, everything that is created, everything that exists is ultimately an expression of God's own being.
Wow, that's a radical thought,
It is.
but also incredibly liberating.
It is.
If we're all expressions of God's creative power, the possibilities are truly endless.
Yeah.
But wait, there's a section of lament in the psalm, right?
Yes, there is.
It seems like a strange turn after all of these promises of greatness.
It does seem like a contradiction, but Goddard sees this lament section as an integral part of the story.
Okay.
Remember those trials and tribulations we talked about earlier?
Right.
This is where they come into play.
Okay.
The psalm describes David facing enemies and betrayal and immense suffering.
So these challenges aren't just random events. They're actually part of the process.
That's what Goddard suggests.
Okay.
He believes that these difficult experiences are not punishments,
Well,
but rather opportunities for growth and transformation. They refine us,
okay.
like gold being purified in a furnace,
I like that.
They force us to confront our limitations.
Right.
To dig deep within ourselves and discover this strength and resilience that we didn't even know we possessed.
So even those dark moments, those times when we feel lost and alone, are somehow contributing to this bigger picture
Exactly.
of becoming David, of embodying God's creative power.
That's it.
It's powerful.
It is.
So it's like saying that faith isn't about avoiding hardship,
Right.
but about finding that courage to keep going even when it's tough.
Yes.
Knowing that there's something greater at play.
Precisely. And remember, the psalm doesn't end with the lament.
Right.
It concludes with a blessing,
Okay.
a reaffirmation of God's love and faithfulness. This reminds us that even though we face challenges, even though the path isn't always easy,
Right.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, that's reassuring.
It is.
It's like no matter what we go through, we're never truly alone.
Yeah.
That ultimately we're being guided towards something beautiful.
That's the essence of it.
Yeah.
That's the essence of the 89th Psalm, and it's a message that Goddard really wants us to carry with us
Wow.
as we navigate our own lives.
I'm seeing this song in a whole new light now.
I bet.
It's not just a story about a king from the past,
Right.
but it's a blueprint for our own spiritual journey,
Yes.
It's about embracing the challenges and holding on to that vision and ultimately stepping into our full potential as expressions of God's creative power.
That's beautiful. I love that.
So how do we actually live this out
Right.
in our everyday lives?
That's the final and most important question.
Goddard keeps mentioning a banquet.
Yes.
What did he mean by that?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to unpack next.
Yep.
This banquet is a powerful image that he uses to describe the ultimate redemption
Oh, wow.
and transformation
Well,
that
that-
awaits us.
My mind is blown. This is great.
Good. I'm glad.
All right, so we've explored this 89th Psalm
We have.
and how it relates to this whole idea of becoming David.
Right.
But I'm still kind of stuck on this banquet thing.
Yeah.
What exactly did Goddard mean by that?
Okay, so the banquet is this powerful metaphor that ties everything together.
Okay.
He describes it as this grand celebration, a place of complete wholeness and healing.
Okay.
Like the culmination of that spiritual journey we've been talking about.
Yeah.
You know, the point where we finally realize our full potential as expressions of God's creative power.
So it's not a literal banquet with food and drinks.
No, it's much more profound than that.
Ah.
It's a state of being,
Okay.
a realization of our unity with God and with all of creation,
But how do we get there?
right?
How do we reach this banquet?
Remember how the woman in Goddard's lecture heard that voice saying, I am God and I am you?
Yeah.
Well, Goddard believes that recognizing our own divinity is key to accessing this state of wholeness.
That makes sense. You know, if we're made in God's image and God is this infinite source of creativity and love,
Right.
then we too possess those qualities.
Exactly. But there's another piece to the puzzle that Goddard emphasizes.
Okay.
And that's this concept of I am.
Okay.
He points out that in the book of Exodus, when Moses asks God for his name,
Right.
God replies, I am, WHO, I am.
I remember that passage.
Yeah.
Always seemed a bit cryptic.
It is cryptic, and Goddard connects this idea of I am to David.
Yeah.
Remember how the 89th Psalm refers to David as the son of Jesse?
Yes.
Well, the name Jesse actually means I am.
Oh.
So when the Psalm says, I have found in David the son of Jesse a man after my own heart,
Right.
Goddard interprets that as God recognizing his own creative power embodied in David.
So David, the son of I am, represents the manifestation of God's...
Self-awareness.
I like that. That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And if we consider that I am is like the most fundamental statement of existence,
Right.
then David embodies that pure potentiality, you know, that raw creative force that exists within all of us.
It's like looking in a mirror and seeing not just our physical reflection, but the very essence of our being.
Yes.
That spark of divinity that connects us.
It connects us to the source.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goddard challenges us to go beyond our limited ego identities and to recognize that I am consciousness within ourselves.
Right.
He believes that when we tap into that power, when we truly own our divinity, that's when the banquet becomes accessible.
So it's not about trying to become something we're not,
Right.
but rather uncovering something that's already there,
Exactly.
waiting to be realized.
And this realization isn't just about personal enlightenment.
Okay.
It has implications for how we live our lives, how we interact with the world,
All right.
how we express our creativity. So it's not about escaping from the world, but about engaging with it in a more conscious and deliberate way.
Exactly. Goddard encourages us to see our lives as a canvas for divine self-expression, you know?
Yeah.
He reminds us that God is a creator and he's bringing forth creators in his image.
Wow. That is empowering.
It is.
It's like saying that we're not just passive observers
right.
in this grand cosmic play,
Yeah.
but active participants.
Yes, co-creators with God.
I love that.
It's beautiful, and it brings us back to that central question that Goddard posed. If God is love and David is his beloved,
Right.
who or what is the object of your love?
Oh.
And how does that reflect your own creative power?
That's a great question.
It is.
And it's not about romantic love, is it?
No, it's much broader than that.
Okay.
It's about identifying what truly inspires you, what lights you up,
Right.
what fills you with a sense of purpose and passion. You know, it could be your work, your relationships, your hobbies, your connection to nature, anything that calls forth your creative energy and makes you feel truly alive.
It's about recognizing those things that make us feel most connected to that
Yes.
divine spark within ourselves.
Exactly. And Goddard believes that when we align ourselves with that love, when we pour our energy and attention into those things that bring us joy and fulfillment,
Right.
we are not only expressing our own unique gifts,
Right.
but also contributing to the ongoing creation of a more beautiful and harmonious world.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has been fun.
It really has.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm seeing myself and the world around me in a whole new light.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad.
It's given me a lot to think about and reflect on.
I hope so.
You know, Goddard's teachings can be challenging,
They can be.
but they're ultimately incredibly empowering.
Very much so.
You know, he invites us to step into our full potential as divine beings,
Yeah.
to recognize our inherent worthiness,
Yes.
and to embrace the creative power that resides within each of us.
Beautifully said.
As we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listener with one final thought.
Okay.
Remember that there's no separation between you and the divine.
Yes.
You are an integral part of this grand cosmic dance. And your love, your creativity, your very existence matters.
It does.
Keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep creating a life that reflects the boundless beauty and potential that reside within you.
Wonderful.
All right, strap in, everybody, because today we are diving deep, and I mean deep, into some seriously mind-bending stuff.
Oh, yeah. I thought.
We're going to be exploring a lecture by Neville Goddard called, and this is a great title, One Greater Than John.
I love this one.
It's, I'm already intrigued, and we're only like 2 sentences in.
Absolutely.
So before we jump into the really good stuff, for anyone who might not be familiar with Neville Goddard, can you give us like a quick 2-sentence overview of who he was and what his teachings were all about?
Sure. So Neville Goddard was a mid-20th century spiritual teacher and author, really, and he's best known for his teachings on the law of assumption. And this is the idea that our thoughts create our reality.
Okay, so that's the super condensed version.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many layers.
Which is why we're doing a deep dive.
Yeah, we're going to peel back some of those layers today.
Okay, so in this particular lecture, One Greater Than John, Neville really focuses on these 2 figures, right?
Yes.
John the Baptist and, of course, Jesus Christ.
Right.
But he uses them in a way that's, it's not your typical Sunday school lesson.
Definitely not.
So can you explain a little bit about, how Neville interprets these figures? What do they represent in his teachings?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most intriguing things about Neville is he doesn't take biblical figures literally. So he uses these figures to represent states of consciousness that we all experience.
Got it.
So we're not talking about literal people here. We're talking about aspects of ourselves.
So archetypes almost?
Yeah, exactly.
Like these universal energies that live within us.
Exactly.
Okay. And specifically in this lecture, he talks about John the Baptist as being the last stage before you reach what he calls the Jesus Christ consciousness.
Right. And this is where things get really interesting because he uses a lot of his own personal experiences to illustrate this transition. And it's really powerful because he grew up in Barbados.
Oh.
In a culture where there was a lot of indulgence, I guess, in food and drink and celebrations.
So a very vibrant kind of maybe even hedonistic kind of atmosphere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Neville really enjoyed all of that.
And indulged in all of it.
He indulged in all of it. And then at the age of 21, he had this really dramatic shift. He suddenly became a strict vegetarian, teetotaler, and celibate all at the same time for 7 years.
Wow. So it was a complete 180.
Yeah, a complete turnaround.
That's a pretty drastic change.
It is. It's huge.
And what prompted that? What was the catalyst for that?
It's not entirely clear what caused it, but it seemed to be an internal shift, something just clicked inside of him. And during this time, he had an encounter with a mysterious figure named Abdullah.
Okay.
Who told him something really cryptic. He said, "You're going to die, but you will not surely die."
Okay, that is definitely cryptic.
And this really stuck with Neville, and he didn't understand what it meant at the time. But he later came to interpret this as a foreshadowing of his transition from the John the Baptist state to the Jesus Christ state.
Okay, I'm already, my mind's spinning with questions.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot to take in.
So, how did he go from, this strict, self-denial to then reaching the Jesus Christ consciousness?
Well, there's this really interesting story where he was living in New York City at the time, and he decided he wanted to go back to Barbados. And he didn't have the money for a ticket.
Yeah.
So he decided to use his imagination. And every night before he went to sleep, he would imagine himself back in Barbados, walking along the beach, feeling the sand between his toes, smelling the ocean air, really immersing himself in that feeling of being there.
Okay, so he's clothing himself with the feeling of being in Barbados, even though physically he was still in New York.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it's a powerful technique. And a few weeks later, he received a letter from his brother in Barbados containing a ticket for him to come home.
No way.
Yeah, so it's his imagination, his assumption of being in Barbados actually manifested in his reality.
So he goes back to Barbados, and that's where the dying but not really dying part comes in.
Yeah, because when he got back to Barbados, he completely let go of all of that strict self-discipline he had been practicing for 7 years.
So he was like indulging in all the things he had been denying himself.
Exactly.
The food, the drink, the whole 9 yards.
All 9 yards, yeah. And this is what he saw as his symbolic death, the death of the John the Baptist state, that state of striving and denial.
So it wasn't a literal death.
No, it was the death of an old identity.
A death of a state of consciousness.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's how we made the transition from John to Jesus. But what does that actually mean? Like, what does it mean to embody that that Jesus Christ consciousness?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something we're going to explore more deeply in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah, this is where it gets really, really interesting.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I am still processing everything we talked about in that last segment, especially that whole symbolic death thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild concept when you first hear it.
It is. It is.
Mm.
So we left off talking about how Neville made this transition from, the John the Baptist state to the Jesus Christ state. But I think we need to unpack that a little bit more. Like, what does it actually mean to embody that Jesus Christ consciousness?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's important to remember that Neville is using these terms symbolically.
Right, right.
So we're not talking about, like, literally becoming Jesus.
Of course, of course.
But rather embodying certain qualities or states of being that he associates with Jesus.
Okay, so what are those qualities? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, for Neville, Jesus Christ represents a state of complete freedom and fulfillment.
Okay.
Where we truly understand and can apply spiritual law to create the life we desire.
Got it. So it's like reaching like the highest level of spiritual awareness almost.
Exactly, yeah. It's about moving beyond limitation and stepping into our full power as creators.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
So like, how do we get there? How do we make that shift from, feeling limited to feeling that sense of freedom and fulfillment?
Well, Neville talks a lot about the power of clothing oneself with the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Oh, yeah. We touched on that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it's a key concept in his teachings, and it's really about embodying the feeling of already having what you desire, even if it hasn't manifested in the physical world yet.
Okay. So like, if I want to manifest a new job, for example,
Yeah.
I would need to feel the excitement and satisfaction of already having that job.
Exactly, yeah. You would imagine yourself going to work every day at this new job, feeling the joy of doing work that you love,
Okay.
receiving a paycheck that reflects your true worth, interacting with supportive colleagues, all of that.
So it's not just about like thinking positive thoughts. It's about actually feeling it in your body.
Yes, exactly. It's about embodying the feeling, not just intellectually understanding the concept.
Got it. Got it. And Neville says, I remember this quote, if they really believe it, they don't make it so, it is so.
Yes, that's a powerful one.
And it really emphasizes that inner knowing, that feeling of certainty.
Exactly, yeah. It's about knowing that what you desire is already yours on a deep intuitive level.
Okay, so I'm with you so far. But what about all the practical steps involved in, manifesting something like a new job? Like, do
Yeah.
we still need to, update our resume and go on interviews and all of that? Or does that just kind of become irrelevant in this framework?
Yeah, that's a common question, and it's a good one. It's not that the practical steps become irrelevant, but they flow more effortlessly when you're in that state of Jesus Christ consciousness.
Okay.
When you're aligned with your desire on a feeling level, you naturally start taking inspired action.
So it's like the actions come from a different place.
Exactly, yeah. They're not driven by fear or desperation, but by a sense of alignment and purpose.
Got it. Got it. So it's like, it's not about, sitting back and passively waiting for things to happen, but it's about taking action from a place of like inner alignment, I guess you could say.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is where the concept of moments comes in.
Moments.
Yeah, Neville talks about these seemingly empty spaces between the assumption, the feeling of your desire, and its fulfillment in the physical world.
Okay. We talked about moments a little bit in the first part,
Yes.
but I'll admit I'm still a little fuzzy on that concept. Can you break it down a little bit more?
Sure. So imagine you plant a seed in the ground, right?
Right.
You water it, you nurture it, but there's a period of time where it seems like nothing is happening.
Right.
But beneath the surface, the seed is germinating, it's gathering the energy it needs to sprout and grow. And those moments are like that. They're not empty, they're filled with potential. It's just that the growth is happening beneath the surface.
Ah, okay. So it's like in the context of manifestation, those moments are actually a time of incubation.
Exactly, yeah. It's where things are working behind the scenes, even if we can't see it yet.
Got it, got it. So patience is key here.
Absolutely, yeah. It's about trusting the process, knowing that your desire is taking form, even if it hasn't fully materialized in the physical world yet.
And that ties back to the difference between John the Baptist and Jesus Christ, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like John is all about striving and trying to force things to happen, while Jesus is about surrender and trust in the divine process.
Exactly. And when you're in that state of surrender, you're not attached to the outcome. You know that what you desire is already yours, and you're simply allowing it to unfold in its own time.
So how do we know if we're truly embodying that Jesus Christ consciousness?
Yeah.
Like, are there any signs or indicators?
Well, Neville talks about the Holy Spirit in this context. He says, "You'll receive power after the Holy Spirit has come upon you." And now that might sound a bit mystical or religious, but what he's really talking about is a shift in energy,
Okay.
a feeling of empowerment and certainty.
So it's like a knowing almost, like a deep inner knowing that everything is working out exactly as it should.
Exactly, yeah. It's about moving from a place of doubt and uncertainty to a place of deep inner conviction.
Okay, I love that. So it sounds like this transition from John to Jesus is a process.
Right, absolutely.
It's not like a sudden overnight shift.
It's a journey, not a destination.
We might experience glimpses of that Jesus Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
But then fall back into old patterns of, striving and self-doubt.
Exactly, and that's okay. It's all part of the process.
So it's about being patient with ourselves.
Yes.
And like trusting that we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely, yeah. And Neville encourages us to keep practicing, to keep trusting in the process. He reminds us that God has prepared a way for himself to return individualized as you.
So it's not about becoming some like distant superhuman figure.
Right.
But it's about realizing the divine potential within each of us.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the beauty of Neville's teachings. It's all about empowering us to create the life we desire, to become the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. So on that note, should we take a quick break and then come back for the final part of our deep dive?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we're back, and I feel like my brain has officially been stretched to its limits.
I know, right? This is some seriously deep stuff we're exploring.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting. Like this idea that we have the power to create our own reality is, it's empowering to say the least.
It really is. And one of the things that really stood out to me in this lecture is that concept of moments. Those periods where it seems like nothing's happening, but really it's all brewing beneath the surface.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, like the seed analogy, right?
Exactly. And I think it's so important to remember that, especially when we're in the process of manifesting our desires, because it's easy to get discouraged, when we don't see immediate results.
Oh, absolutely. Like we can start to doubt ourselves, doubt the process, and maybe even slip back into those old patterns of like striving and forcing things to happen.
Exactly. But that's where faith comes in, right? It's about trusting that even though we can't see it yet, things are working out behind the scenes.
Okay, so like how do we cultivate that faith? Like especially when we're feeling impatient or doubtful.
Well, I think it starts with remembering that feeling of certainty we talked about earlier, that Jesus Christ consciousness, where we know deep down that what we desire is already ours.
So it's like, even if our current reality doesn't reflect what we want, we have to hold on to that feeling of knowing.
Exactly. And the more we practice that, the more we embody that feeling, the more our outer reality will start to align with our inner world. It's like we're creating a magnetic pull, drawing our desires into our experience.
Okay, that makes sense. So basically it all comes back to that feeling, that state of being.
Absolutely. And remember what Neville says, feeling is the secret.
Feeling is the secret. I like that. So for our listeners who are like ready to dive in and start experimenting with all of this, what's like one practical tip they can take away from this deep dive?
I would say start small. Choose one desire that feels manageable, something that excites you but doesn't feel overwhelming.
Okay, keep it simple.
Yeah, and then really focus on embodying the feeling of already having it. Spend a few minutes each day visualizing yourself in that reality, feeling the emotions, the sensations, all of it.
And don't get discouraged if things don't happen overnight.
Right. Exactly. It's a process, not a magic trick. But the more you practice, the more you'll start to see those shifts in your outer world.
This has been such a fascinating conversation, and I'm so grateful for your insights. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of Neville's teachings and, honestly, a whole new perspective on the power of my own mind.
Me too. It's always inspiring to dive deep into Neville's work. There's always something new to discover.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Neville Goddard's One Greater Than John. We hope you found it as mind-expanding as we have. And until next time, remember, feeling is the secret.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at faith and imagination. And we're going to be using a lecture by Neville Goddard called Holding to Our Faith.
Okay.
It was delivered on May 9th, 1969.
All right.
So a little ways back. But as you'll see,
Okay.
the ideas are still shockingly relevant today.
Interesting.
And he starts off with kind of a bang, really gets you thinking right away.
Oh, how so?
Well, he talks about this news story
Okay.
about the Vatican declaring 40 saints non-existent,
Oh, wow.
including Saint Christopher.
Like completely non-existent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks about, imagine if you were a family
Right.
and you always had Saint Christopher medals
Right. For safe travel.
for safe travels.
Yeah.
And now suddenly
Now they don't exist.
the Vatican's saying, nope, sorry.
Interesting.
And he kind of uses that as a springboard to say,
Okay.
why are we putting our faith
Right.
in these external authorities?
Oh, I see.
So he's really challenging
Right.
the idea of relying on saints or rituals
Hmm.
for our spiritual connection.
Interesting. So where do we go instead then?
That's where the imagination comes in.
Ah. Oh.
So instead of looking outward
Right.
to saints for guidance, he says we should look inward.
Okay.
And he makes this pretty radical claim.
Okay.
He says, and I quote,
Hmm.
"The only Christ that ever existed is your own wonderful human imagination."
Wow. That's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah, it kind of turns traditional religious ideas on their head.
It definitely does.
Um,
So he's suggesting that the power we often attribute to these external figures actually lies within us,
exactly.
in our own imagination.
Yeah, and he really emphasizes
Okay.
that imagination is the ultimate creative force
Mm.
within each person.
Okay.
He argues that everything in the world,
Wow.
both good and bad,
Everything.
stems from this power of human imagination.
So are we responsible for the bad things too then?
Well, that's a complex question.
Yeah.
And he does address it.
Okay.
And he talks a lot about fear.
Yeah.
And how fear is often used as a tool for control by external forces.
Mhm.
So, tyrants and things like that.
Right. They try to instill fear
Mm-hmm.
in order to manipulate people.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So he's really urging us to find that inner strength,
I see.
that courage to break free from those external influences.
So it's about recognizing that we have this power within
Yeah.
and not giving it away
Mhm.
to these external authorities.
Exactly.
Or succumbing to fear.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very empowering message.
It is.
But I'm still kind of wrapping my head around this.
Yeah.
This idea that our imagination is the source of everything.
Mhm.
How does that even work?
It's a good question. And he uses this analogy
Uh-huh.
of a radio or a TV.
Oh, okay.
So just like we can tune a radio to different frequencies
Right.
to access different stations,
Right.
He's suggesting that we can kind of tune our imagination
Interesting.
to different frequencies
Okay.
and manifest different outcomes in our lives.
So it's about what, like focusing our thoughts and beliefs in a way that shapes our reality?
Exactly.
But
yeah.
then wouldn't that mean people are consciously imagining bad things?
Well, that's where the fear piece comes back in.
Okay.
He's suggesting that fear often distorts our imagination,
Right.
leading us to focus on these, negative possibilities
Yeah.
instead of the positive outcomes.
Okay, so if we can kind of overcome that fear and learn to focus our imagination in a positive direction,
Yeah,
we can change our experiences.
exactly. It's not just about daydreaming.
Right.
It's about actively using our imagination as a tool.
To shape our reality.
Yeah,
Wow, this is already making me think
Yeah.
about faith in a whole new way.
it's powerful stuff.
So what else does Goddard say about this whole journey
Right.
of self-discovery?
Well, he talks about the journey to the Father and how it's really about uniting with Christ,
Okay.
which he sees as a symbol of the awakened imagination
Oh, okay.
within each of us.
Mhm.
And he uses a lot of biblical references to support this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Could you give me an example?
Yeah, so one that he refers to often is this idea of finding David.
Okay.
And he connects that to the decree, "Thou art my son, today I have begotten thee."
Okay.
So he's suggesting that the Son of God is not some external figure,
Right.
but rather something that we discover within ourselves.
Through the power of imagination.
Exactly.
So it's not about worshiping an external deity. It's about recognizing the divine power within ourselves.
Exactly.
And that's where his challenge to actively live by faith,
Right.
rather than just passively accepting it,
Yeah.
really comes into play.
I see.
He's really emphasizing that true faith lies in recognizing and harnessing this inner power.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then he tells this kind of curious story
Oh.
about a woman and a fish
Right.
to illustrate this point.
I remember that one.
What's that all about?
Well, he describes this woman walking down the street
Okay.
carrying a fish.
Okay.
And the fish keeps almost dying.
Okay.
And she keeps having to revive it.
Okay.
And she finally realizes that she's been neglecting this fish, which he says represents her own imagination.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So the fish is like something that's supposed to save her,
Right.
but the true savior is her own creative power.
Exactly.
That's a powerful message.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put this into practice?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Well, he uses another really fascinating analogy to explain that.
Okay.
And it involves a dream about a pig.
A pig dream.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
All right, I'll tell you about it. So in this dream, he finds this runt of a pig.
Okay.
And he tries to make it comfortable.
Okay.
You know, give it a nice place to lie down.
Oh.
And later, he sees the pig is grown, but it's really thin and weak.
Oh.
Like it hasn't been fed properly.
Oh, I see.
And then he sees his brother come in,
Okay.
and his brother adds this rich, creamy gravy
Okay.
to the pig's food.
Interesting.
And that's when he realizes that he's been neglecting this pig,
Okay.
which represents his imagination.
So the pig represents imagination.
Yeah,
And the gravy represents what? The things we need to feed it.
exactly.
Like, what kind of food are we talking about here?
It's our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings.
Okay.
He's saying that if we constantly feed our imagination
Right.
with negativity, doubt, fear,
Yeah.
it's going to remain weak and underdeveloped. But if we nourish it with positive thoughts, faith,
Okay.
a belief in our own power,
Yeah.
it can grow and thrive.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's also a candle in this dream, right?
Yes.
The
What's
candle.
the significance of that?
So this candle suddenly bursts into flames,
Okay.
and he describes it as the spirit of man being ignited.
And he sees it as a symbol of his own imagination awakening.
So it's like a spark of inspiration or something.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
But he also realizes that even though he understood
Right.
the importance of imagination,
Yeah.
he hadn't been actively cultivating it.
Like he wasn't walking the walk.
Exactly. He'd been neglecting his pig.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he stresses the importance of practice
Okay.
when it comes to imagination.
So it's not just a passive thing.
No.
It's an active process
Exactly.
that requires effort and consistency.
Yeah.
So how do we actually practice imagination?
Right. What does that look like?
Yeah, in everyday life.
Well, remember that analogy of tuning the imagination like a radio?
Mm-hmm.
He suggests we can use a similar process to manifest our desires.
Okay.
So he encourages us to create a vivid mental picture
Okay.
of our desired outcome,
Okay.
engaging all of our senses.
So it's not just seeing it. It's
Yeah.
like, what would we hear?
Yeah,
Feel, smell, even taste. If our wish were already fulfilled.
you got it.
So it's like creating a mini movie in our minds.
Yeah.
Bringing it to life with as much detail as possible.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he also suggests imagining hearing the voice of a trusted friend,
Oh, interesting.
congratulating us on our success,
Okay.
really feeling those emotions
Okay.
associated with achieving that goal.
So it's not just about visualizing the outcome.
Right.
It's about embodying the feeling of it already being real.
Exactly. And that's where faith comes in.
Okay.
It's about trusting in the power of our own imagination
Right.
to bring about that desired change, even if we can't see it in the physical world yet.
And that reminds me of something he said about planting a seed.
Yes.
He cautions against expecting instant results.
Right.
He compares each act of imagination to planting a seed.
Exactly.
And just as different seeds have different gestation periods,
Right.
some desires might take longer to manifest than others.
Exactly. Patience and persistence are key.
So we need to be patient, but also persistent.
Yeah.
We can't just imagine something once
Right.
and then expect it to magically appear.
You got it.
We have to keep nurturing that seed, keep feeding our imagination with that vision.
Exactly.
And we also need to remember what he said about abolishing fear.
Yes, that's so important.
Because fear can be a major obstacle
It can.
to realizing our desires.
Absolutely.
We get caught up in the how
Yeah.
instead of focusing on the what. It's like
Right.
we get bogged down by all the perceived obstacles and limitations.
Right.
Instead of just assuming the desired outcome is already on its way.
That's it. Exactly.
So he's encouraging us to shift our focus from the how to the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Yeah.
He's suggesting that the how will often take care of itself.
It often does.
If we can truly believe in the reality of our imaginal experience,
Right.
it's about learning to bypass the logical mind
Mm-hmm.
and tap into that deeper creative power within us.
That's the key.
His ideas are so radical,
They are.
yet they make a strange kind of sense.
I know. It's like he's taking traditional religious concepts
Yeah.
and turning them inside out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is a mind-blowing concept.
It is.
It makes you wonder what we could achieve
Right.
if we fully embrace this idea of imagination as a creative force.
And he actually poses that question in the lecture.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he asks,
Right.
what if we consistently walked in the assumption
Mm-hmm.
that our wish is fulfilled?
Okay.
What would we experience in our world?
It's a pretty loaded question.
It is.
Is he talking about manifesting a parking space
Oh.
or something more significant?
Right.
Like world peace?
Yeah.
Where does he draw the line?
He doesn't really set limits
Oh, okay.
on the potential of imagination.
Mm.
He suggests that everything we see in the world,
Okay.
from the smallest details
Yeah.
to the grandest achievements,
Mm-hmm.
is ultimately a result of someone's imaginal activity. So, if we want to see positive change in the world,
Yeah.
it all starts with changing our own inner state.
In a way.
That's a big responsibility.
It is. And it's not about wishful thinking
Right.
or passive daydreaming.
All right.
It's about consciously cultivating our imagination, using it as a tool to shape
Yeah.
not just our own lives, but potentially the world around us.
Yeah, this whole conversation just keeps bringing me back to
Yeah.
that analogy of feeding the pig.
Right.
We have to nourish our imagination, give it the right kind of food if we want it to flourish.
Absolutely. And that nourishment comes from our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings.
Okay.
If we're constantly feeding our imagination with fear, doubt, limitation,
Yeah.
we're likely to manifest more of those experiences
Right.
in our lives.
Okay.
But if we choose to focus on faith, love, possibility,
Yeah.
that's when things start to get really interesting.
This whole deep dive has been so thought-provoking. It's given me a whole new way of looking at faith, creativity, the power we have to shape our reality.
I think that's exactly what Goddard would have wanted.
Yeah.
He was a master at sparking that curiosity, inviting people to step into their own power. Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
is there like one key takeaway
Okay.
that stands out to you from this deep dive?
I think for me, it's the sheer audacity
Okay.
of his claim that our imagination is the ultimate creative force.
Right.
It's both empowering and a bit daunting, isn't it?
It is.
It suggests that we have a far greater responsibility for
Yeah.
the state of our world
Mm-hmm.
and our own lives than we
Yeah.
might realize.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you with a lot to ponder.
It does.
And I think it speaks to the power of this idea,
Yeah.
how it can challenge our existing beliefs and open up these new possibilities.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day,
Yeah.
I encourage you to consider this.
Okay.
What if your imagination is far more powerful?
Than you ever realized. And what might you create
Yeah.
if you dared to believe
Right.
in its infinite potential?
That's a fantastic question to leave our listeners with.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
Yeah, thanks for having me.
into the world of Neville Goddard.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining,
Yeah,
and keep believing in the power within you.
I like it. Right, so you wanted to do a deep dive on Neville Goddard and how to use dreams to make things happen.
Right.
So we're cracking open his 1963 lecture, Incubate the Dream.
Oh, yeah.
And trust me, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Goddard was talking about imagination way before it was like a mainstream idea.
Yeah.
And the way he blends it with spirituality
Yeah.
is just mind-blowing.
Yeah. What's so fascinating is how he uses these ancient stories and wisdom to like illustrate these concepts. Like, for example, he starts by distinguishing between like, the regular dreams we all have and intentional dreams, the kind we can cultivate to shape our reality.
Intentional dreaming. Okay, I'm intrigued, but how do you even
Right.
begin to control your dreams like that?
So he points to the biblical story of Solomon
Okay.
in 1 Kings 3 and 2 Chronicles 1.
Okay.
Solomon intentionally induces a dream to seek guidance from God.
Uh-huh.
But here's the key.
Okay.
Solomon doesn't ask for wealth or power. He asks for an understanding mind to rule his people justly, essentially aligning with God's promise to his father David.
So he's using his dream to tap into a higher purpose, not just personal gain.
Right.
But how does that translate to us regular folks who aren't ruling entire nations?
Right. So that's where Goddard's interpretation gets really interesting.
Okay.
He says it's not about like a literal sun or kingdom,
Right.
but about states of consciousness.
Mhm.
David represents humanity,
Okay.
and Solomon's request symbolizes the desire for spiritual awakening within us all.
Okay, I'm starting to see the deeper layers here. So it's not just about getting what we want,
Right.
but about aligning with a greater purpose.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, the idea of controlling my dreams still feels a bit out there.
Uh-huh.
Is there any proof this actually works?
Well, Goddard brings up another biblical story.
Okay.
Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's dream.
Okay.
A double dream, he says, signifies that God has set things in motion. And guess what? Goddard himself had a double dream experience.
Wow.
He describes becoming grandfather, a figure who manifests desires through vivid imagination.
Hold on, he actually became this grandfather figure.
Exactly.
Not just dreamed about him.
Initially, he hears about grandfather,
Right.
but then he embodies the figure experiencing the desired state firsthand.
Okay.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
It's about stepping into the desired reality,
Right.
not just observing it from afar.
Okay. That's pretty wild. But how does this translate into a technique we can actually use?
Right.
I'm dying to know how this all works.
So Goddard calls it incubating the dream.
Okay.
He says we all have a vacant lot, which represents something we desire that's currently missing in our lives.
So the first step is identifying that vacant lot, that thing we're missing.
Yes.
What's next?
This is where it gets really exciting.
Okay.
You have to step into the end state,
Okay.
fully embody it as if it's already real.
Okay.
Imagine it in vivid detail, what you see, hear, feel,
Right.
even how others react. Wow, you're essentially living the desired experience in your imagination.
So we're not just wishing for something, we're creating a detailed mental picture of it as if it's already happening.
Exactly.
That's a powerful concept.
You're planting a seed in your imagination.
Uh-huh.
And according to Goddard, that seed must flower.
Wow.
This is where his understanding of both ancient wisdom and the power of the mind really shines through.
Okay, I'm starting to get the gist of it. Identify the vacant lot.
Yes.
Step into the end state.
Yes.
And live it in your imagination.
Yes.
But then Goddard throws in this unexpected element, the symbolism of the pig.
And this is where it gets a little tricky.
Okay.
He connects the pig to Christ the Savior.
What?
But don't worry, we're not talking about literal pigs here.
Yeah.
It's a universal symbol.
So what does this pig symbolize, and how does it relate to intentional dreaming?
So Goddard shares a dream
Okay.
where a pig transforms from small and hungry to large but rangy.
Okay.
He interprets this as neglecting to feed Christ, which in this context represents neglecting our imagination.
Interesting. So is he saying that by not using our imagination for good, we're essentially starving a part of ourselves?
Precisely.
Hmm.
And it's not just about neglecting our own potential. It's about failing to use this power for something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
Every act of using our imagination in a positive way is like feeding our inner Christ.
So it's not just about manifesting a new car or a bigger house.
Right.
It's about using our imagination to contribute to a more loving and harmonious world.
Exactly. And this aligns perfectly with Goddard's ultimate message.
Okay.
While the technique can work for anything, he emphasizes that our ultimate vacant lot should be the fulfillment of God's promise,
Okay.
which is ultimately spiritual awakening.
Okay, so we're talking about some pretty profound stuff here.
Yes.
But I have to admit, I'm still struggling to understand how this pig symbolism translates into practical action.
Yeah.
How can we actually feed our inner Christ through imagination?
That's a great question. And it leads us to one of the most fascinating aspects of Goddard's teaching. You see, he doesn't just tell us what to do.
Right.
He provides us with a framework for understanding.
Yeah.
He provides us with a framework for understanding how to actually apply this concept in our lives.
Okay, so we're talking about feeding our inner Christ. I'm curious to know how Goddard explains this whole framework thing.
Well, he uses a really interesting analogy to illustrate it.
Okay.
The idea of becoming our own father's father.
Okay.
It sounds a bit complicated at first, but it actually makes a lot of sense when you break it down.
Becoming our own father's father?
Yeah.
That sounds like something out of a time travel movie. How does that even work?
Remember how Goddard said that David represents humanity?
Uh,
When we reach a state of spiritual maturity, he suggests,
okay.
we become the father of that humanity.
Okay.
We become the source of our own spiritual understanding
Right.
rather than just inheriting it from someone else.
So it's like graduating from spiritual childhood to spiritual adulthood.
Exactly.
We're no longer relying on someone else to define our beliefs.
Right.
We're creating them ourselves.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of feeding our inner Christ comes in.
Okay.
Every time we make a conscious choice to align with love, to act from a place of compassion,
Right.
to create something beautiful in the world, we're nurturing that spiritual maturity within ourselves.
Mm.
We're feeding that inner source of wisdom and understanding.
That's a powerful image. But let's bring this back down to earth for a moment.
Okay.
Goddard doesn't just talk in abstract terms. He also shares some pretty amazing stories about how he used this technique in his own life.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
One of the most compelling stories
Okay.
is how he used intentional dreaming to get an honorable discharge from the army.
He dreamt his way out of the army?
He was stationed far from home
Oh, wow.
and desperately wanted to be back in his own apartment.
So he literally dreamt his way out of the army.
Yeah.
That sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how he did it.
He followed the technique to the letter. He vividly imagined himself lying in his own bed, smelling the familiar sense of home, seeing the details he would only see if he were actually there.
Okay.
He immersed himself in that reality every night before falling asleep.
And it worked. He actually got discharged just from vividly imagining it.
It took 9 days. But yes,
Wow.
his application, which had been initially denied, was suddenly approved.
Okay.
It's a pretty convincing example of the power of this technique.
Okay. I have to admit, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But didn't he also caution against using this technique to escape our responsibilities?
You're absolutely right.
Like, we shouldn't be dreaming our way out of paying taxes or going to work.
Goddard emphasizes that this power shouldn't be used to shirk our responsibilities.
Oh.
In fact, he mentions that his commanding officer likely believed he was the one who initiated the discharge. Goddard didn't try to correct him or take credit for it.
So it's not about manipulating the world to get what we want, but about working in harmony with it. We plant the seed and then trust that it will grow in its own time and in its own way.
Exactly. That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
It's about surrendering control, allowing the universe to orchestrate the details.
Right.
He compares it to a farmer planting a seed.
Okay.
The farmer doesn't dig up the seed every day to check on its progress.
Right.
He trusts the natural process of growth.
I love that analogy. It reminds me of this saying, let go and let God.
Right.
But letting go can be so hard, especially when we really want something.
It is.
Yeah.
But Goddard reminds us that the more we try to force things, the more we hinder the process.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between focused intention and surrendered trust.
This is all starting to make sense, but I'm wondering about the potential pitfalls.
Uh-huh.
Are there any downsides or challenges we should be aware of when using this technique?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And Goddard does address some of the challenges. He talks about the importance of being mindful of our thoughts and feelings because our thoughts and feelings, because they're the very seeds that we're planting.
Right.
If we constantly focus on lack or fear or doubt, that's what we're going to manifest in our lives.
It's like that saying, energy flows where attention goes. We have to be mindful of the direction we're pointing our imaginative energy.
Exactly.
If we're obsessing over what we don't want, we're essentially inviting it in.
Right. And this is where Goddard's emphasis on the pig symbolism becomes really relevant.
Yeah.
Remember, the underfed rangy pig represented a neglect of using imagination lovingly.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how that ties in. It's not just about getting what we want.
Right.
It's about using our imagination to create something good, something that contributes to a more harmonious and loving world.
Precisely. It's about aligning with a greater good, using this incredible power to uplift ourselves and others.
Right.
It's about feeding our inner Christ, as Goddard puts it, by making choices that reflect our highest values.
So every time we choose kindness over judgment, every time we visualize a more peaceful world, every time we use our imagination to create beauty,
Yes.
we're not just impacting our own lives,
Yes.
we're contributing to the collective awakening of humanity.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it reminds me of something Goddard said in this lecture that really struck me.
Okay.
He said, everything is a play, and God is playing all the parts.
Wow. That's deep.
Eh.
It's like we're all actors in this grand cosmic drama.
Right.
But we also have the power to choose our roles,
Yes.
to write our own scripts through the choices we make and the realities we imagine.
And the more we awaken to our true nature, the more we realize that we're not just actors in this play, we're co-creators with the divine.
Wow.
We have a role to play in shaping the reality we experience,
Right.
both individually and collectively.
This has been such an incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've gone from understanding the different types of dreams to exploring biblical stories to uncovering the symbolism of pigs. It's amazing how Goddard manages to weave together ancient wisdom and modern psychological concepts.
It really is. We've learned that we can incubate our dreams, manifest our desires, and ultimately fulfill God's promise within ourselves by embracing the power of our imagination.
We've also learned that this power comes with great responsibility.
Yes.
It's not just about getting what we want, but about using our imagination for good, for creating a world that reflects our highest values.
And that brings us to the ultimate question, the one I hope you'll continue to contemplate long after this deep dive.
Okay.
If every act of imagination is a seed, what seeds are we planting in the world? What legacy are we creating through our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions?
That's a powerful question to leave us with. It's a reminder that we have a choice in every moment. We can choose to plant seeds of fear and doubt, or we can choose to plant seeds of love, hope, and possibility. And those seeds, as Goddard reminds us, will inevitably bear fruit. So choose wisely and happy planting.
Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be looking at Neville Goddard. And, you sent us this book of his. It's called Imagination is Christ. And from what I've been reading, I think we can both agree this is going to be a really fascinating dive.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be right up your alley. Those aha moments that you're always looking for. I think Neville's going to provide a lot of those.
Definitely. So let's just jump right into it. One of the first things that really struck me was this core premise of his imagination is Christ. It's a pretty bold statement, right? Like, what do you think he means by that?
Well, he's definitely not limiting Christ to a single historical figure, right? It's more about this creative power within each of us. That's what he's getting at. And the way we tap into that power, he says, is through our imagination.
So then he takes it even further. He claims that imagining actually creates reality. Like, not just influences it, but actually brings things into being. How does he bridge that gap, between what we imagine and what actually happens in the physical world?
That's where his concept of living in the end comes into play. It's about more than just visualizing something. It's about really, truly immersing yourself in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, as if it's already happened.
So you engage all your senses, you really feel the emotions, and you truly believe it's real?
Exactly. You're living in that reality.
He uses the example of his brother Victor in the family business to illustrate this, right?
He does. Victor really wanted to reclaim his family's honor and success, which he felt had been compromised. And so he really focused his imagination on a specific building, one that held a lot of significance for him.
So he pictured the family name on the marquee, felt the pride of ownership really lived in that reality.
For 2 years he did.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable how things seemingly just fell into place almost miraculously to make that vision a reality.
So it sounds like we could achieve anything if we could harness that kind of focus and belief.
Well, that's exactly the challenge Goddard throws out to his readers. He wants us to test this idea in our own lives.
He suggests asking ourselves, how would I feel if my desire were already true? And then really dwelling in that feeling.
Sleeping in that assumption.
Even if logic and your senses are telling you otherwise, he says that consistent assumption will eventually harden into fact.
Right. He uses another really powerful example to demonstrate this. It's about a friend who was about to be fired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had no safety net of family to support. He confided in Goddard's friend about his fears.
So what did Goddard's friend do? Offer some practical advice?
No, he turned to the power of imagination.
Okay, he didn't even tell the man what he was doing. He just started imagining him being praised and valued at work, even getting a raise.
Yep, and get this, within 48 hours, the whole situation flipped. The friend was recognized for his work, and he did get a raise.
But he was still anxious, right?
Yeah, he actually decided to quit. Gave his 2 weeks notice.
Oh, that's risky. Especially with his financial situation.
It was. But Goddard's friend didn't waver. He just kept living in the end. He imagined his friend not only employed, but thriving in a new position with a 25% raise.
And I'm guessing this is where it gets really interesting.
It does. During his week off, the friend got offered a new position without even applying, with a 25% raise.
Wow, that's incredible. It seems like focused imagination can really influence events even beyond our immediate control.
It highlights that potential for sure.
So it's not just about passively daydreaming. It's about consciously choosing what we focus on, what we allow to take root in our minds.
Absolutely, and that's a crucial point Goddard makes. He encourages us to be mindful of the images we're entertaining, to feed our imagination with what we want, not with fear or negativity.
He even compares it to reading the newspaper, which is often filled with negative news.
Oh yeah, he says dwelling on those stories can really be detrimental.
Like consuming something you know is bad for you, but you just keep doing it.
Exactly. It's about making that conscious choice to focus on what we want to create, not on what we fear or dislike. And this leads to another key idea of the power of assumption.
And he uses Julius Caesar as an example of this, right? That Caesar wasn't born great, but he assumed greatness, and that ultimately shaped his reality.
Precisely, Goddard argues that Caesar's unwavering assumption of his own power and leadership drew people and circumstances to him that ultimately led to his rise.
Like he didn't let the limitations of his birth dictate his future.
He assumed the identity he desired and lived as if it were already true.
So he's saying we need to become actors, playing the role of the person we want to be until it becomes our reality.
I like that analogy. By consistently inhabiting the feeling of our wish fulfilled, we're aligning ourselves with the frequency of that reality and drawing it into our experience.
This all ties back to his idea of imagination as Christ. Right?
It does. If Christ represents this creative power within us, and we access that power through our imagination, then we all have the ability to shape our own reality.
And this leads to his really interesting interpretation of the crucifixion.
Which he doesn't see as a historical event.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a symbolic representation of a spiritual truth.
Exactly. He even describes this intense mystical experience where he felt himself being crucified onto his physical body.
Yeah, he talked about these 6 vortices of energy in his hands, feet, head, and side.
That felt like they were nailing him to his physical form.
And he connects this to the biblical quote from John, "No one takes away my life. I lay it down myself. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to lift it up again."
Powerful stuff, right?
It is. So is he saying that Christ's crucifixion is a metaphor for our own identification with the physical world? That we willingly limit ourselves by attaching to our physical form and our beliefs?
That's a great way to put it. We nail ourselves to our limitations. And just as Christ rose from the dead, Goddard believes we can rise above our limitations by recognizing our true identity as one with the divine.
He also has a very unique take on Judas and the betrayal.
Yeah, instead of seeing Judas as this separate individual who betrayed Jesus, he sees him as a representation of the spirit of man betraying the spirit of God within him.
So it's this idea of self-betrayal, the denial of our own divine nature.
Exactly. He even mentions a vision he had where he was teaching a group of men and one betrays him to the authorities.
And that connects to this idea of self-betrayal.
It does. In the vision, he's symbolically nailed to his physical form, representing the limitations we impose on ourselves through our beliefs and actions. We're responsible for our own liberation or our own imprisonment.
Now, this next part might surprise some people. It's his views on reincarnation.
He actually rejected the idea of reincarnation.
Really? That seems a bit unexpected.
I know, right? Especially considering his mystical leanings and exploration of spiritual concepts.
So why do you think he rejected it?
Well, he believed that reincarnation is a man-made theory that exploits people's desire for spiritual understanding. He uses the example of Krishnamurti, this spiritual teacher, who was initially promoted as the reincarnation of Jesus Christ.
And books were published outlining Krishnamurti's supposed past lives.
And even though Krishnamurti denied those claims, the books continued to circulate.
So Goddard saw that as people clinging to a belief system, maybe even profiting from it without questioning it?
Exactly. He felt it illustrated how easily people can be misled by appealing to their desire for spiritual knowledge. True spiritual awakening comes from within, not from seeking external validation or clinging to theories.
So if he didn't believe in reincarnation, what did he believe happened after death?
Well, he suggested that death is simply a transition to a world very similar to this one. He described seeing people who had died restored to youthful bodies in a physical world that mirrored our own.
He even mentioned trying to change things from the other side.
But he found he couldn't.
So he's saying that the real journey, the real work happens while we're here in this life.
That's his emphasis for sure. True freedom comes not from dying, but from awakening to our true identity while we're still alive.
And this awakening for Goddard is the realization of our oneness with the risen Lord.
Yes, the recognition that we are not separate from the divine.
And he stresses that this is an individual experience, not a collective one.
Meaning we each awaken in our own time and in our own way.
But we maintain our individuality even as we realize our divine essence.
We do. We retain our unique personalities and perspectives. We don't merge into some kind of collective consciousness. It's a fascinating blend of biblical concepts with a focus on personal experience and self-discovery.
It really is. And it raises a lot of questions. If our imagination is this potent, if it can really shape reality, then what responsibility do we have for the images we hold in our minds, not only for ourselves, but for others?
That's an important question, one that Goddard definitely brings up. He reminds us that imagination can be used for good or ill. It's a powerful tool, and we have a responsibility to use it wisely and ethically.
He even gives that example of conjuring up the sound of the Battle Hymn of the Republic in his mind.
Even though he doesn't have any musical ability.
It's as if he's saying our thoughts have an effect on the world around us, whether we're aware of it or not.
It brings us to Goddard's challenge to his readers. He urges us to choose an assumption, to believe in it wholeheartedly, and to test his ideas in our own lives.
So to experiment with the power of our imagination and see how it shapes our reality.
To find out what we truly want, without seeking approval from others, and to persist in our assumptions, even when the external world seems to contradict them.
It's a call to step into our power as creators of our own reality. But before we get into all that, I think it's time for a quick break. We'll be back in a moment to dive deeper into the practical applications of Goddard's ideas.
Sounds good. Okay, so we've been talking about some pretty wild concepts, like imagination being the key to creation and living in the end. This idea that Christ is this creative force inside of all of us.
I know, right? It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
So how do we actually use these ideas in our everyday lives?
Well, that's the really cool part about Neville Goddard. He's not just about abstract theories. He wants us to actually apply these ideas and see what happens.
Okay, so where do we start?
He really emphasizes the importance of choosing our assumptions carefully. We have the power to decide what we believe, and those beliefs will shape our reality.
So it's about being aware of the thoughts we're holding on to, the stories we tell ourselves.
Exactly. Remember how he talks about God not being some distant figure, but the very force of imagination within us?
Yeah, so we're not actually powerless. We have this creative power right here, right now.
Exactly. And he urges us to stop giving our power away, whether it's to circumstances, to other people, or even to those limiting beliefs we have about ourselves.
He talks about reclaiming our birthright, this ability to shape our own experience.
Mm-hmm. And you know what else I love?
What's that?
He talks about teaching these ideas to children.
Oh, yeah, I love that too. You can imagine growing up with that kind of understanding of your own potential.
It would change everything, right? To know from a young age that you're not limited by your circumstances, that you have the power to create your own reality.
Exactly. And he challenges us to do the same for ourselves, to let go of those limiting beliefs we might have about ourselves, our families, our potential.
He even talks about aristocracy in a really interesting way. It's not about social status or inherited wealth for him.
It's not.
No. True aristocracy is about recognizing our divine nature, the creative power that we all have inside of us.
I like that. So much better than the traditional definition.
Right.
Okay, so he's telling us to start living from that place of power, to assume the best, to act as if our dreams are already real. But what about when things get tough? When the external world doesn't seem to match up with what we're trying to create?
Well, that's where the real work comes in. Goddard knew it's not always easy to keep living in the end, especially when you're facing challenges. But he says persistence is key. He uses the analogy of a seed being planted in the ground.
It doesn't just sprout up overnight.
Nope. It needs time, nurturing, consistent attention. Our desires are like seeds. We have to tend to them with faith and belief, even when we don't see results right away.
So trusting the process, even when things are uncertain?
Exactly. And remembering that our thoughts aren't just these private things in our heads. They have real power, to influence the world around us.
And that power comes with responsibility.
Absolutely. It makes you think about the kind of world we could create if we were all more aware of the images we hold in our minds. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
If imagining really does create reality, then we have a responsibility for those images we're putting out there.
That's a huge question that Goddard leads us to really think about. It's a big ethical question, He reminds us that even though imagination can be used for good, it can also be misused.
Our thoughts aren't neutral. They have a ripple effect.
Exactly. It's not just about getting what we want. It's about realizing that we're all connected and our individual realities are part of this bigger picture.
We're all in this together.
Yeah. Goddard is challenging us to use our imagination wisely, to create not just for ourselves, but to make the world a better place.
That's a really powerful idea. It's not just about personal gain. It's about using our creative power to make a difference.
And that's what I think makes Goddard so interesting. He offers this path to personal fulfillment, but it also leads to a greater sense of purpose.
It's not just about you. It's about everyone.
Exactly. He's not afraid of the challenges or the ethical questions. He embraces them. And by doing that, he's inviting us to step into a more conscious way of being.
It's a journey of self-discovery, but it's also about transforming the world around us.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to change our lives and the world we live in.
That's a powerful message. So powerful. This whole deep dive has been incredibly inspiring, you know?
I agree. It's given me a new perspective on how powerful our minds really are and the responsibility that comes with that.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. And it's definitely made me want to start putting these ideas into practice in my own life.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Neville Goddard's work. We hope you found it as inspiring as we have.
Remember, your imagination is the key to unlocking your potential. Don't be afraid to dream big, believe in yourself, and never underestimate the power of your own mind to create the life you want.
Until next time, keep imagining, keep creating, and keep believing. Goodbye. You know, it's amazing how Goddard takes these mystical ideas, almost spiritual, and blends them with this practical approach to personal transformation.
Yeah, it's not about blindly believing. It's about testing it out, seeing what works for you.
He even says that in 5 years, the people who laugh at these ideas might be working for us while we're living the life we imagined.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, if we believe we're limited, will those limitations become our reality? But if we believe we can create anything, well, who knows what's possible?
He reminds us that we don't have to wait for permission to go after what we want. We can choose what we believe right now and act like it's already true.
That's living in the end, right? Bridging that gap between what we imagine and what we experience.
It's like becoming the person we want to be. Not just thinking about it, but actually being that person.
Exactly.
It's kind of like fake it till you make it, but on a much deeper level.
It is. You're not pretending.
Yeah.
You're aligning yourself with what you want to experience.
And that's where that power of assumption comes in. It's about making a choice to believe in something, even if there's no proof yet.
Like planting a seed and taking care of it, knowing that eventually it will grow.
We have to nurture our desires just like we'd nurture a plant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not always easy, but it can be so rewarding.
Goddard's work really shows us that we're not just victims of circumstance,
Right.
We're creators. We have the power to shape our lives, to make our dreams come true.
And to make the world a better place. It all starts with imagination, with that spark of possibility.
It's about believing in something bigger than ourselves, something that pushes us to reach our full potential.
This has been an incredible deep dive. It's given me so much to think about.
Me too. It's a whole new perspective on how powerful our minds are and the responsibility that comes with that.
Goddard's work is a real gift. It reminds us that we're capable of so much more than we think.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of Neville Goddard.
We hope you found it as inspiring and thought-provoking as we have.
Remember, your imagination is the key to unlocking your full potential. Don't be afraid to dream big, believe in yourself, and never underestimate the power of your own mind.
Until next time, keep imagining, keep creating, and keep believing.
Goodbye, everyone.
Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be looking at a 1964 lecture by Neville Goddard called You Shall Be Gathered One by One.
Ooh, okay.
Really, really fascinating lecture that was packed with all kinds of really cool insights about the nature of reality and the power of imagination.
Right.
And all this from like a mystical perspective.
Okay.
So are you ready to jump in?
I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do it.
So to kind of start us off, like, what is Goddard even getting at with this whole idea of God being our imagination? Sounds pretty radical when you first hear it.
It is pretty radical, but it's definitely a very fascinating concept. And what he's really suggesting is that the creative force that we normally think of as this higher power is actually within each of us.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't necessarily mean that we're literally conjuring up physical matter with our thoughts, but rather that our beliefs and perceptions shape our experience of reality.
Okay, so it's almost like instead of praying to an external God for something to change, we should be looking inward at our own beliefs and how those are affecting our reality.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So that makes a lot of sense. But then that also makes me wonder, like, where does free will come in?
Mm-hmm.
If our reality is like a product of our imagination,
Right.
then what does that mean for our choices and actions?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think is worth really pondering.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of Goddard's philosophy.
Okay.
You see, he saw the Bible as a roadmap of consciousness.
Okay.
He believed that the stories and characters in the Bible represent different states of being that we all experience in our lives.
So the Bible is almost like
It's like a guidebook.
a guidebook.
Yeah, for
Oh.
navigating the different states of consciousness that we all go through.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and he uses a lot of examples from the Bible
Right.
to illustrate his points.
Right. And one that I remember in particular was from 1 Kings 13
Mm-hmm.
about a man of God who was sent to deliver a prophecy,
Yes.
but was given very specific instructions not to eat or drink anything while he was
So
there.
he, and of course what happens?
He totally disobeyed.
He disobeys. He
Yeah.
can't resist.
He can't resist.
The temptation.
Yeah.
He ends up accepting food and water from this false prophet
Right.
and suffers the consequences.
Yeah. So what is the deeper meaning behind this story, though? Like,
Mm.
what does the eating and drinking actually symbolize?
So for Goddard,
Yeah.
accepting the beliefs and truths of a particular reality
Mm-hmm.
is like consuming its food and drink.
Oh, okay.
So the man of God was essentially swayed by the false prophet, bought into his reality,
All right.
and then became trapped in its limitations.
So it's almost like he got stuck in a way of thinking
Yes.
that wasn't serving him anymore.
Exactly.
And just because he couldn't resist those, like, earthly temptations,
Right.
it makes you wonder, like, do we all have those moments
I think we all do.
where we unknowingly kind of eat and drink beliefs that are actually holding us back?
I think that's a really great point, and I think Goddard would absolutely agree with you.
Okay.
He believed that being aware of our thoughts and beliefs is the first step
Oh, okay.
towards breaking free from those limitations.
Okay.
And he actually shared a really interesting personal story
Okay.
about having a vision
Yeah.
where he experienced this firsthand.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So he described entering this incredibly vivid vision
Mm-hmm.
where he encountered these two ladies
Okay.
who insisted that their reality was completely real, just like we perceive our world to be.
So he's basically saying there are other realities out there
Yes.
that feel just as solid and believable as our current one.
Exactly.
But he knew it was a vision, so he knew it would end.
Right. And this is where his concept of staying true to your inner vision comes into play.
Okay.
He knew that the origin of his vision was his own mind.
Right.
So he didn't buy into the beliefs of those ladies.
He didn't let their reality influence his.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's almost like he recognized the power of their beliefs
Mm-hmm.
to shape their experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he chose not to participate in it.
Right.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And makes me think about another thing he mentioned,
Okay.
which was this mysterious claim that some people who die don't have a clear cause of death
Oh, right.
because their consciousness got stuck in another reality.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's a bold claim, and while we can't necessarily take it literally,
Right.
it does make you think about the power of belief and its potential impact
Okay.
on
Right.
our experience even beyond this physical life.
Yeah.
But let's go back to how Goddard was able to kind of navigate
Yeah.
these different realities,
Okay.
because he mentions using his sense of touch
Right.
as key.
Yeah, he described holding onto a pillar in the dream and using that feeling to wake up within the dream,
Yes.
and then using the feeling of a pillow to return to his physical body.
Right, so it's like grounding himself
It's like grounding.
for physical sensation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, and it actually relates to another biblical story that he brings up.
Okay.
The story of Jacob
Mm-hmm.
receiving Isaac's blessing.
Right.
Remember, Jacob, disguised as his brother Esau,
Right.
used the sense of touch to deceive his blind father and receive a blessing intended for someone else.
So both Goddard and Jacob used their sense of touch, their feeling, to influence outcomes.
Exactly.
It's almost as if by intensely feeling something,
Mm-hmm.
they made it more real.
Right, and Goddard saw it as proof
Yeah.
that feeling can shape reality.
Okay.
And he even suggested that this is how we can bring our desires into being,
Okay.
by feeling them as if they were already real.
So we're not just thinking it.
We're not just thinking it.
We're inhabiting the feeling of it.
We're inhabiting the feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great way to put it.
And this ties back to his idea of God being our imagination, doesn't it? It's not just about thinking positive thoughts.
Right.
But about embodying the feeling of what we want to create.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we're starting to get a better grasp of this concept.
Yeah.
But there's another really big idea that I want to dive into.
Okay.
Which is the idea of the one man.
Yes.
This felt like a major part of the lecture to me.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so this concept really reveals how deep Goddard's ideas go.
Okay.
He believed that humanity is not just a collection of separate individuals,
Mm-hmm.
but rather expressions of a single, interconnected being.
And this one man is
Jesus Christ.
the embodiment of universal consciousness.
Okay.
And when we awaken to our true nature, Goddard believed, we realize that we are all part of this one man.
So we're all connected.
Yes.
All part of this one divine being, all expressions of God.
That's right.
That's a pretty powerful concept.
It is.
Yeah.
And it connects beautifully with his emphasis on the power of imagination.
So if we can grasp this idea of interconnectedness, if we can feel it as deeply as we feel our own individual existence, what kind of reality could we create, not just for ourselves, but for everyone?
So we're not just imagining our own personal realities.
Right.
We're tapping into a collective power that shapes everyone's experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot to digest.
It is a lot to digest. And I think we'll need a little bit of time to let all this sink in.
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll be back soon
to
unpack even more of these amazing ideas.
Sounds good.
All right.
See you.
See you then.
Okay, so we just left off talking about the one man, this idea that we're all connected as expressions of a universal consciousness, which Goddard identifies as Jesus Christ. But if we're all part of this one man, this collective being, does that mean that we all have access to this incredible creative power?
That's exactly what Goddard suggests.
Okay.
He didn't believe that this power was limited to just a select few. He saw it as inherent potential within every human being.
Wow, that's really powerful.
It is.
But it also raises a lot of questions for me. Like, how do we actually tap into this power?
Right.
Does he give us any practical advice on how to do that?
Well, he doesn't lay out a strict step-by-step process, but he does emphasize the importance of feeling, of really embodying the state of the wish fulfilled.
Right, and he calls it feeling it in your imaginary hand.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like not just thinking about what you want, but actually feeling it as if it's already real.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about engaging all of your senses.
Okay.
Allowing yourself to really experience the emotions associated with having your desire fulfilled.
So you're not just thinking positive thoughts, you're shifting your entire state of being to align with your desire.
Exactly.
Is that why he stressed the importance of not getting caught up in external appearances?
Yes.
Like staying true to our own inner vision, even if the outside world seems to contradict it?
Yeah, exactly, because remember the analogy of the food and drink.
Right, from the story in First Kings.
From the story of First Kings.
Right.
Goddard believed that if we buy into the beliefs and limitations of others, if we accept their version of reality as our own, we risk losing sight of our true power.
And our own unique path.
And our own unique path, exactly.
So it's almost like we have to be discerning about what we allow to influence our thoughts and beliefs.
Yes.
We have to choose our own food and drink carefully.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a deep sense of inner knowing, a trust in our own intuition and guidance.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we are the ultimate authority in our own lives.
And that's why he emphasized personal experimentation, right?
Yes.
Like trying things out for ourselves, seeing what works.
Exactly.
And developing our own understanding of these principles.
Absolutely. He wasn't interested in blind faith or dogma. He wanted people to become their own spiritual scientists, to explore the power of their own minds through direct experience.
That's what I find so refreshing about his teachings.
Me too.
Yeah. It's less about adhering to a set of rules or doctrines.
Right.
And more about a practical approach to personal growth and self-discovery.
Yeah.
It seems like his goal was to help people awaken to their own potential.
I think so.
Both individually and collectively.
Absolutely.
And he also talked about the importance of sharing our experiences.
Yes, he did.
Even if they sound strange or unbelievable to others.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Well, he believed that those who had experienced this power of imagination
Okay.
had a responsibility to help others awaken to their own.
So it's not just about personal transformation.
No.
It's about raising the consciousness of humanity as a whole.
Exactly.
And speaking of spiritual evolution, there was one more intriguing concept
Yeah.
that Goddard mentioned in this lecture that I wanted to touch on,
Okay.
which is the true resurrection.
Right. He hinted at it, but didn't fully explain what he meant.
Yeah. Do we know anything more about that?
Well, he described it as a profound shift in consciousness,
Okay.
a complete transformation of our being.
Okay.
And it goes beyond the physical resurrection that's often talked about.
Right, in traditional religion.
In traditional religion, exactly.
Did he elaborate on this idea anywhere else in his work?
He did.
Okay.
He went into much greater detail in some of his other lectures and writings,
Okay.
particularly in his book titled Resurrection.
Oh, wow.
It's a fascinating exploration of the ultimate potential of human consciousness.
So it's like a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered
It is.
by those who are ready to delve deeper
Exact.
into Goddard's teachings.
Yeah, I think we might even need a whole separate deep dive dedicated to that topic.
I agree, that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
But for now, let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and explore some of the practical implications of Goddard's ideas
Okay.
for everyday life.
Right.
How can we take these concepts
Yeah.
and apply them to create positive change in our own lives and in the world around us?
Right. That's a great question.
All right, so I feel like we've explored some pretty mind-bending concepts from Neville Goddard.
Yeah.
This whole idea about the power of our imagination, that we're all part of this interconnected one man,
Right.
and even this possibility of a true resurrection that goes beyond the physical.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. But what does it all mean, like, practically speaking?
Yeah, that's a great question.
How do we actually apply these ideas to our lives?
I think that's the key question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get caught up in the fascination of it all.
Right.
But Goddard wasn't just about theory.
Right, he wanted people to...
He wanted people to experience it.
Yeah.
He wanted people to really experience the transformative power of these concepts.
So how do we bridge that gap between concept and experience? Like, what would he say
Right.
is the most important takeaway
Yeah.
for people who are just starting to explore his work?
I think he would encourage us to start by becoming more aware of our own thoughts and beliefs.
Okay.
He often talked about recognizing the power we have to shape our own reality, even if it's just our perception of reality.
That reminds me of what he said in the lecture about how the Bible isn't meant to be taken literally,
Right.
but rather as a symbolic representation of different states of consciousness.
Yeah, like a guidebook
Yeah.
for navigating those states.
It's like he's saying we're not just passive observers
Right.
in some predetermined story.
Yeah.
We're actually active participants
Mm-hmm.
in creating our own narrative.
Exactly.
That's powerful.
It is a powerful shifting perspective.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like we're at the mercy of external forces,
Right.
we can start to see ourselves as the authors of our own lives.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean we can control everything that happens,
No, of course not.
but it does mean that we have more agency than we might realize.
Right. We have more power than we think.
And he also talked about feeling, right?
Yes, feeling is so
Yes.
important.
Really embodying the state of the wish fulfilled.
Absolutely.
That always felt like a key part of his teachings to me.
It is.
It's not just about positive thinking.
Right.
It's about truly feeling what it would be like
Yes.
to have your desire manifested.
You talked about feeling it in your imaginary hand.
Right, like engaging all of your senses,
Yeah.
allowing yourself to fully experience those emotions associated with already having what you want.
Yeah, you're not just hoping for it.
You're living as if it's already yours,
You're living it.
which makes me think of that story about the vision.
Oh, yeah, with the two ladies.
Yeah, he encountered those two ladies
Right.
who were so insistent that their reality was the only real one.
Yeah.
And he recognized that.
He saw it.
Their beliefs were shaping their experience.
Yeah.
But he didn't get caught up in their limitations.
He stayed true to his own vision.
Right. And that's so crucial.
It is.
It's about discerning what truly resonates with us, what aligns with our deepest desires and beliefs,
Yes.
and not letting ourselves get pulled off course
Right. It's about not letting
by external influences.
the outside world dictate your reality.
It's about trusting our own intuition,
Exactly.
our own inner guidance.
That inner compass.
And then he also emphasized that it's not enough to just keep these insights to ourselves.
Right.
He talked about the responsibility to
Yeah.
share our experiences
Yeah, to share what we've learned.
with others to help them
To
awaken.
help them awaken to their own potential.
It's not just about personal transformation.
It's about a collective evolution of consciousness.
And that's where this idea of the one man comes in
It does.
so beautifully. Because if we can start to see ourselves and each other
Yeah.
as expressions of this universal consciousness, it changes everything.
It changes how we see the world.
It expands our compassion,
Yes.
our understanding of interconnectedness,
Absolutely.
and it changes our ability to collaborate and create a better world together.
It does. It allows us to tap into that
Yeah.
collective power.
So it's like he's inviting us to participate in this grand experiment,
I think so.
to explore the power of our imagination, not
Yeah.
just for our own personal gain,
Right.
but for the betterment of humanity as a whole.
Absolutely.
And while he acknowledged that it's not always easy,
Of course not.
he also offered a message of hope and empowerment,
Right. He believed in us. He
Yeah.
believed in our potential.
that we can awaken to our true nature,
Yes.
become conscious creators of our own reality.
And contribute to a more beautiful and harmonious world.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to wrap up this deep dive into Neville Goddard's work.
His work is truly inspiring.
It is. Thank you so much for guiding us through this exploration.
It was my pleasure.
It's been incredible.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And for all of you listening out there,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
And we'll see you next time, ready to explore more fascinating ideas
And uncover more hidden truths.
together.
Exactly.